So hello, thank you again. My name is Candace Johnson and I am your Region 10 Director and the Chair of the Elections Committee. I'd like to start the meeting by acknowledging that I am on the unceded and stolen territories of the Clayley 10A, and I'd like to provide thanks to our ancestors that have pirated this land and been able to provide stewardship to the lands since time immemorial. While you're thinking about the answers this evening, I'd like you also to invite you all to attend, when you're attending the meeting, to think about the lands that you are also on and contemplate how this guides us through our meeting this evening. I'd like to just read to you the HSA Guiding Principles of Solidarity. As a trade union, HSA values solidarity. Solidarity means that members of HSA act together to promote their common interests in their workplace. It also means that members commit to respectfully working through differences. Solidarity is demonstrated when members listen to each other, support one another, have a confidence and respectfully challenge one another, work together to find solutions and compromises. Solidarity requires discussion, respect, curiosity, compromise. Attendees at HSA events are expected to demonstrate this kind of solidarity. I'd also like to introduce to you Zara Lalani. She is an occupational therapist in Coquitlam. She is acting as our ombudsperson this evening. Her contact information will be shared within the chat. Please do not hesitate to contact her at any point during the evening. So just a little bit of information for you. The chat function between participants should not be used during this meeting. You should only be sending messages to the host, myself, or staff for supporting the meeting. Each candidate will be invited to make an opening statement of 5 minutes. We'll then turn to questions and answer period. You're invited to send your questions through the chat function to me, or you may read it out yourself. You can also send it for me to read out, or you can also send it to the chat yourself and have your microphone turned on to ask your own question. Your questions will be taken in the order that they come in. Questions are limited to 1.5 minutes in duration, and please remember these are questions and not statements. You may ask only one question at a time. Your microphone will be turned off after you've posed your question, and there is no follow-up question. This will help us to get through as many questions as possible in the next hour. I will recognize the speaker who may have a second question only after all members have had a chance to pose one question. While a question may be directed at a particular candidate, all candidates will have the opportunity to respond to each question. Candidates have up to 2 minutes to answer the question. All time limits will be strictly enforced by me, and I do have a timer. So let's get started with the candidates for their opening statement. I would like to turn it over to our very first speaker, Carla Gibbons.
First, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from the traditional stolen lands of the Squamish and the Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I live in the beautiful area that's colonial known as the City of North Vancouver. My name is Carla Gibbons, and I would like your consideration to be the next Region 5 Director. I grew up in Kamloops and moved to Vancouver after graduating from Thompson Rivers University to attend the now defunct BC Cancer School of Cytotechnology. My training led me to being hired at the Cervical Cancer Screening Laboratory, where I screen pap smears on a microscope, an average of 65 slides a day for the last 18 years. As my election bio has stated, I've experienced both within HSA and the broader union world. I first became involved in HSA about a decade ago, when I attended my first chapter meeting and they were looking for delegates to convention. After the second call, there were still some vacancies, so I volunteered and I never looked back. My first convention was a presidential election year, and it was eye-opening. The governance of the union was fascinating to me. I became a steward at BC Cancer within a wonderful team led by Elaine Leong and the assistant lead steward Kane Say, who is now the current HSA president. I learned about the importance of chapter meetings and member engagements and being organized. Eventually, I was lucky enough to attend the Canadian Labour Congress Winter School at Harrison Hot Springs, which was my first real experience in the wider labour movement. I took a class in provincial labour law, but also learned about government relations and the private sector unions. In 2017, I was elected to serve as member-at-large on the Resolutions Committee for Region 5. The Resolutions Committee reads through and gives recommendations on all the resolutions going to the HSA convention. It was a great way to get an in-depth look at what is important to all members. After serving as member at large, I ran for and was elected to the board of HSA as Region 5 Director in 2019, and I served until June 2021. While on the board, I served on the COPS Committee, Finance Committee, and Political Action Committee. I was also lucky enough to attend the NUPCHI, National Union of Public and General Employees Leadership School in 2019 in Ontario to learn skills to be an effective union leader. I served as delegate at the BC Federation of Labour, NUPCHI, and CLC conventions. My term on the board encompassed the beginning of the COVID pandemic. It required a complete pivot on the part of the board and the union to virtual work, more meetings in the evenings, and shifting priorities. It was difficult but rewarding work. Being virtual meant that I was able to chair many meetings and attend conventions while I was on my maternity leave. As the end of my term neared, I declined to run again due to family and work commitments. I felt that if I couldn't fully commit to the role of regional director, I shouldn't run again. We were lucky enough to have Jill Slynn win the election and serve as our regional director for the last 1.5 terms. After a brief hiatus from union work, I became a general steward, and I am now the lead steward of BC Cancer Vancouver and serve as a Labour Council delegate at the Vancouver and District Labour Council. Both positions have afforded me the opportunity to work with people from an array of professions and to learn of issues facing workers in both healthcare, community service, and the broader community. Volunteering for HSA in a range of roles has given me experience in engaging members, knowledge in union governance, and the confidence to speak up for members, whether it is to the employer, at union conventions, or at the board table. I promise to listen to members, reach out to all chapters, and to advocate strongly on your behalf. I have the experience to quickly jump into the role of regional director, and I have the passion to work hard for all members of Region 5, whether they are from some of the smaller chapters like BC Centre for Ability, Open Door Group, Ribbon Society, Kettle Friendship Society, BC, or Transcare BC, or the larger sites like BC Cancer Vancouver, Women's and Children's, and BC Cancer Fraser Valley. Together we can work to build a stronger HSA. So I'd like your consideration for this role. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. And Kendra, please start with your opening statement.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendra Tapscott. I'm joining our call today from the stolen and unceded lands of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh people. I would like to take a moment to honor and give thanks to the Indigenous people who have lived and worked and cared for these lands for time immemorial. Today I'm asking for your vote to represent you and your fellow members as your regional director. I am a clinical dietitian and the general steward at BC Children's Hospital. My involvement in the union started shortly after attending a presentation on EDMP, the Enhanced Disability Management Program, at the Children's and Women's Chapter meeting. I was intrigued and wanted to learn more about where our union dues go and how I could support colleagues to understand the nuances of the collective agreement. I enrolled in basic steward training and came back to my worksite with so much information to share. Since then, I've served as a general steward for 5 years and assistant lead steward for 1 year. I've been an active HSA member at our chapter, where I've had the opportunity and the privilege of working closely with my peers to advocate for the needs of our members and bring forward concerns at HSA events and annual conventions. I was wanting to be more involved in the union and gain a better understanding of the internal workings, so this year at convention I sought out a few more new opportunities. I was elected as a member of the Trials Committee. This committee is formed to ensure a fair and just dispute resolution process between members. And I was also appointed as an alternate member at large. I haven't yet had the opportunity to take part in this role, but what it means is that I'm on standby and may be asked to sit in on a committee. I'm running for regional director position to be your voice on the board, with hopes of bridging the gap between you and the union. I want you as members to understand your rights in the collective agreement, to see yourselves represented in leadership, and most importantly, I want you to all feel supported by the union. As a young worker and a proud HSA member, I've come to appreciate just how important it is to be an active member in the union and to use my voice to represent the diverse membership and centering the experience of equity-seeking groups such as BIPOC members, US LGBTQIA+ members, and members with disabilities, amongst many others. If elected, I hope to help meet the needs of members by advocating for fair wages, safer working conditions, and affordable childcare and access to healthcare when we need it. It's my goal to connect with as many of you as possible and have meaningful conversations and gain a deeper understanding of what is important to you. I'm here to listen, hear your story, fight for you as valued members of HSA, and I will strive to represent you with integrity, honesty, respect, and will work to earn your trust and support as your representation on HSA's Board of Directors.
Thank you, Kendra. So just to get us all warmed up, I'm going to start off with a question that all the candidates had received in advance. So here's your question. HSA has grown from a union representing just 9 professions in acute care settings to 22,000 members working in acute, community health care, and community social services. What do you believe should be the top 3 priorities for the Board of Directors to focus on in the coming year? And I'll ask Carla first.
I believe that the top 3 priorities should be bargaining. All 3 of our major contracts are up in April 2025. So I think bargaining is definitely a priority for all members. I think along with bargaining we need to make a more public space for us. We need people to know that healthcare and community social services are not just nurses and doctors, and that there's other people that are working very hard behind the scenes so that we have the support of the public so that we can get better wages and better benefits. I also think member engagement is the second #1 priority. We have a lot of members that don't even know what the union does. I think we need to reach out to everybody. We need to know what their priorities are so that we can shape the union to serve them better. And I think the third one is to work on the strategic plan. The strategic plan is actually from 2021 to 2023, but during COVID, they just extended it. So we don't really have a current strategic plan. We have had a lot of new members, a lot of new professions. And I think that it's time that we update the priorities of the union. I think that we've started making inroads into some of the EDI items that are needed. We have some new committees coming up. We've actually hired an EDI management role. And so I think that we need to continue that. But to do that, we need to be working on the strategic plan so we can see how we can meet members where they are.
Thank you, Carla. Same question, Kendra.
Okay, yeah, so as a union that represents so many different professions, both in the healthcare setting as well as in the social service industry, it's really tough. It can be tough to bring all of those perspectives together and come up with 3 priorities. But the union has done some work with the strategic plan and has referenced some of the priorities that members have shared. And in this year's resolutions that were submitted by members, there was a few themes that kind of stood out to me, including affordability, just general safe working conditions, and classifications. And so this being a year where there's a provincial election and we have bargaining coming up, it's a great opportunity to make sure that we're aligned with our members and what our members' priorities are when it comes to bargaining. So I think that's like the intricacies of what members want. When it comes to affordability, there was lots of resolutions on vacancy control and just the incredibly high cost of living in most of British Columbia, and safe working conditions when it comes to like violence in the workplace, manageable workloads, staffing shortages, forced overtime. There's a lot of things happening at people's work sites that should be kind of incorporated into the bargaining this year.
Great, thank you very much. I'll now open it up for questions from the members. Lisa.
Hello. My question is just around why both of you are to serve on the board of directors for this upcoming term, and also if you could expand a little bit on the work that you've done at your home chapters to support members and also to advance the work of the union. Thanks.
We'll turn that to Kendra first, please.
Okay. Yes, so I'm most interested in stepping into this role because I believe in positive change and there's huge potential within our union and the board to lead all of us members forward with positive change. And I think that my perspective would strengthen the board and help move things in that direction. The other big reason that I found or that I wanted to run was that over the years I found it incredibly difficult to understand the union, to follow all the lingo, to the acronyms, the formal language. And so I, over the years, that's kind of been, made more accessible to me, and I've made a point of understanding things, and I would really like to engage with members and make the union meaningful for them in ways, like in topics that mean something to members. And there's been lots of kind of gains, like there's some new videos up on HSA's website, which was resolutions at convention to make bargaining, kind of explain bargaining in layman's terms or what convention is. And that's a wonderful start. I think there's a lot of other changes that could be made. And my hope as regional director is to kind of demystify the union and maybe spark an interest and open some doors for members who don't know yet that they want to be involved. And then in terms of what I've done at my chapter, I've been a general steward for kind of a total of 6 years. Within that time, have worked with a wonderful steward team to plan and host chapter meetings, and then have engaged with members on grievances and as well, whether it's not official new member orientation, but I've taken upon myself to help new members, transition members navigate the collective agreement and have fielded lots of questions from people who don't know whether they've been, their rights have been violated.
That's time.
And then kind of on the wider union front, I've attended convention.
Sorry, Kendra, that's time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Carla, same question.
Why do I want to run to be on the board of directors for this term? It's a short term, but I feel like I would like to return to the board of directors. I left. I still had a lot of work I'd like to do. We accomplished a lot of the things that I had wanted to do when I first joined the board. But I really think that I have more to offer. I have a lot of experience, and I know that this is a new, younger board, and so there's not actually a lot of experience on the board, which is a really good thing. Nothing makes me happier to see a bunch of newer joined the board last time. There was 3 new people, and that was like the first time in years they had had that many new people, and now there's been almost a complete turnover, which I think is wonderful. But I'd just like to continue on some of the work that I've been doing, or I was doing on the board. As far as what I've done at the home chapter, I became lead steward in August of last year. And since then, and even before that as a general steward, I've attended a lot of grievances. I've done labor management meetings and meetings with our LRO. And also I managed to we've had our first 2 in-person chapter meetings. We've got them going again after COVID. We have not had any in-person chapter meetings since early 2020, I would believe. So that is a big, big bonus. We've got a lot of new members that are coming to these chapter meetings. It's still small, but it's made a big difference. And so we're working on a lot of outreach. We've done some walkabouts. We've done events like the OH&S fair, which I attended to, and I have a 0.26 FTE. So I try to make a presence in the union office so that people know that we're there to try to expand and get back to the presence that we used to have before COVID, which I think hit us a lot because we're spread out in lots of different buildings at our chapter. And we also, we still have people that don't even work on site, they work from home. So that's a big thing that I've been trying to do and work on. And we have a full steward team now, so that's been very helpful.
Sorry, thank you. Nicole, and the question will go to Carla first.
Thank you to Carla and to Kendra, both for running for regional director. My question is, what do you see as the biggest challenge or challenges the union faces in the current climate? And how do you see a path forward to work on these challenges?
Turn to Carla, please.
I think that the biggest challenge that the union has and the union members has is a lack of respect from the employer. At least that's what I see. A lack of respect from the public who doesn't understand anything that we do and what's going on behind the scenes. And sometimes a lack of support from the union when it comes to how the public views us. I know that working at BC Cancer, there's been a lot of decisions made by the current government that brings up some bad press, sending patients to the States, or I work in cytotechnology and pap smear lab, and they were sending them to the States. And often I hear from union members that they don't feel supported by the union because there's all of this bad publicity and there's no one standing up for them. So how do I see the union supporting them? I think the union needs to get out there and make a more public stance on what we do, who we are, and why we are important to healthcare and to the province. We do some of the most vital roles in Region 5. We serve a lot of programs that are province-wide, and people just don't understand that. And as a Region 5 member, I think that we need to be more forward in our thinking, and that you need to prove that we are province-wide, that affordability is an issue, and you can't just move from the Lower Mainland, because if everyone who worked in the Lower Mainland left, there would be no healthcare. A lot of programs would fail for the entire province. So I'd like to see HSA actually stand up more for its members.
Thank you. Same question, Kendra.
Okay. I think, yeah, member engagement is high on the list. And I think we need to rebuild a lot of trust from our members. And I think we've seen a lot of conflict on the board over the past few years and at convention. And we need to kind of acknowledge that picture and understand that that is how a lot of members are seeing the union. And we need to kind of rebuild that and paint a more positive picture. And I think this year was a great example. There was a lot of collaboration between the board members, and it just felt like it was more functional. So I think it would be great if that could continue on and members could see that and then also kind of see and feel what the union is doing for them. I think with the classifications changes, a lot of members felt very deeply dissatisfied by how disengaged disengaged they were, or the union, how little communication there was between the union and members. And I think that there's a lot of amazing things that the union is doing for members, and I think we need to highlight those and remind people of all the work and the gains that we've made over the years. So I would say kind of like member image and engagement.
Thank you, Kendra. So recognizing I see no questions in the chat at this point, is there anybody else online that would like to ask another question or a question? Nicole McIntosh, then it will go to Kendra first. Your microphone is off.
Thank you. My next question is, do you consider yourself a leader, and what are your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
Kendra.
Yes. I've tended to take on leadership roles, and over the years I've grown in my leadership skills, and I've come to appreciate kind of what I value in a leader, the types of skills. And I think one thing that I really try when I work in a team of dietitians and I'm the most senior, and it does take a lot of you need to show up with positivity, but you also need to engage your team. And in terms of the skills that are required for a successful leader, are to like remind your team what you're working towards, and to keep that kind of on the top of their mind, and to motivate and encourage and celebrate the wins that you have, both as an individual friend or as a member of a greater team. And then to like reflect and improve and change and learn from experiences, share experiences, and learn from each other.
Okay, thank you, Kendra. Same question, Carla.
I would consider myself a leader. I think my strengths are collaboration, and I like delegating to people that sometimes have more expertise than you. It's important to know when you've hit sort of your limit and you've reached as much as you know, to reach out, find someone who knows more, and delegate to them. I'm also hardworking. I always come prepared to meetings and everything. I'm a very diligent worker, and I like to be prepared. I think I'm a good listener. I like to listen to people and collaborate. I really like, in my outside world, outside of HSA, I belong to a community that makes decisions by consensus, which sometimes can take a long time, but it is also very enlightening because you sit and you listen to everyone. And we have a phrase where you just have to know when it's good enough, and you just let it go if it doesn't actually affect you. And I think that that's something that I take to heart, that if it's really important to someone else, then I'll fight for it on their behalf. But it doesn't always have to be important to me. It's what other people need and want. I think my weaknesses are that sometimes I'm a little too introspective and I can be quiet. So I might not speak up originally, and by the time I do speak up, maybe the situation has gotten a little bit farther along than it could have, because I could have spoken up a little bit earlier.
Thank you. Any other questions? Lisa? They'll be for Carla first.
Perfect. So both of you have touched on some of the EDI work that's been going on in the union and recently and also historically. So I'd just love to hear a little bit more about how you see your role supporting EDI issues within the union. For me as a member and as a lead steward, I hear a lot from members about issues that they're facing related to racism, accessibility, just kind of safety in the workplace related to their identity. So how do you see yourself and in the role of regional director supporting the EDI work that's already happening, and where do you see that we need to build on that even further?
Thank you, Lisa. Carla?
I will say that I'm not an expert at all in EDI. I am a white cis woman, so I cannot speak on personal experience on any of these, but I feel like the role of the union is to keep expanding the caucuses and the committees they have. I think that I would like to eventually see maybe equity vice presidents are on the board, or some equity seats on the board. I think that as a board, it's your responsibility to listen to what the committees and the caucuses and the EDI staff are telling you are needed as far as the board, and what structures that the union needs to bring into place to make those happen. I attended the human rights workshop the other day for stewards, so I can learn a little bit more about that. I also defer if it is something that is to do with racism or accessibility. I will defer to other stewards that might have more experience. I will ask the member if they would like a steward who has more experience, either lived experience or experience as a steward. And I know I will reach out to the EDI staff at HSA if required, because I can't possibly understand what someone might be living in with and how they feel about a situation. It's just not my experience, and I understand my limitations.
Thank you, Carla. Same question, Kendra.
Yeah, so I'm on the journey, and I've done a lot of work and a lot of learning, and acknowledging that as a white person, I don't understand the perspective of my fellow members who are experiencing racism firsthand, and that I hold privilege, and I think it's important for me to continue listening and learning to members who have experienced racism, and to understand from them how I can support them as an ally. And then kind of in the broader inclusion, like inclusion refers more to more than just anti-racism work. And it's important that we also try to make our union more accessible and welcoming to and have people feel represented, people with disabilities, trans people, and people, gender diverse people. At convention this year, we passed with so much support a resolution to allow them to form caucuses for 3 equity-seeking groups, and this to have the resources, the staff support, and the platform to pave their own way to reach inclusion in the union is just wonderful. And I think collaborating with the EDI team, it's nice to see that there's some expansion in that team, and hopefully there can be more meaningful direct impact to members. And then in terms of job selection and just maybe try represented and they see themselves in the board and HSA staff. So I think trying to incorporate more equity into the hiring processes.
Thank you, Kendra. Any further questions? Oh, Nicole. And then we'll go to Kendra first. Thank you.
Sorry, I have one more. Outside of the union, what kind of experiences do you bring that could be useful in the board of director role?
Thank you, Kendra.
Okay, good question. I would say, an obvious example would be my workplace. Working in a team of lots of different people, different personalities, different healthcare professionals, different levels of education, and managing, all kind of working towards the same goal of improving our patients' lives and their outcomes. We're all working towards the same goal, but sometimes we can get stuck on little things. And so conflict resolution, I think, is a big one, something that I practice. I have to practice often. And I do see myself as a leader within my team as well, and having difficult conversations with colleagues to address conflict is really important, rather than letting something kind of stew. And then kind of outside of work, I've participated on some advisory groups for different mental health organizations in the past, and have spoken kind of from a personal level of my experiences, and had to work with people in kind of all different, everybody came to that table with different experiences. Some were family members, some were professionals, some were people with lived experiences, and it was a really great learning opportunity for me to see and learn how to better kind of come together as a group.
Thank you, Kendra. Same question, Carla.
My experience outside of the union, I have sat on a variety of boards, mostly childcare related in the past, but I do have some experience with that. I've also I touched on it briefly, a part of a co-housing community, which is 27 strata units, and we created our own development company, purchased our own land, hired our own architect, hired our own construction company, and built a building from scratch. And now we all live together. And so we have monthly meetings and we do things together, and everything is by consensus. And there's a variety of people, from young families all the way up to retirees, some of which are more vocal than others. And so it's really taught me how to live with people, how to value other people's decisions, how to listen, very well how to sometimes just let it slide off your back when it's not something that you want to get into. It's been quite a valuable experience. I think even in work, we often work now in a sort of a team, even though it is a very independent job we're switching. So we have to work together team wise and you have to interact with a lot of different people. And I think that that's also helped me. I'm also on the Vancouver District Labor Council, which has opened my eyes to a variety of different labor issues and listening to other people who have different points of view than me. It's been interesting as well. So I think that I have a broad range of interests and experiences that I could bring to the board.
Thank you, Carla. Any further questions? I don't see any other further questions in the chat. So seeing no further questions, I would like to give the candidates an opportunity to provide a closing statement. So I'll be doing that in reverse order that we did in our opening. So Kendra, you have 2 minutes as a closing statement.
Okay. So I hope that you will consider voting for me. I think what I would bring to the union is a new perspective, new energy, and I hope to bring the union to its members and make it digestible so people can understand what's happening in the union and what they can get from their union. Because right now I think there's a lot of people who aren't engaged at all and have no sense of what the union does outside of take their union dues. And so that would be a strong focus for me, and I would plan to engage with members and have conversations and really understand your work and the challenges you have, and bring those back to the board and advocate on your behalf. Please consider voting for me.
Thank you. Carla, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
First, I just want to thank Candace for hosting this, and I want to thank Kendra for putting her name forward. It is really nice to see an actual election in a region instead of acclamation. I think that when we all participate in democracy, it makes us all stronger as a union. And so, although there's not very many people at this meeting, I really appreciate that people are attending and that there is an actual election for this by-election. I think that I can bring forward just some more experience into the board, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. I think that I'm passionate about HSA, and I think that there's some things that could be worked on for sure, but I think that it's going and it's finally heading in a very good direction, and I'd like to keep building on that momentum throughout our chapter, give a strong voice to our chapter at the board table. Also, member engagement is important to me. I'd like to go out and visit all the chapters. When I was last on the board, I visited a few in person before the COVID pandemic shut that down, and also virtually. So I think that it's important to have our regional directors show up and be seen, not just an entity that is sometimes available via email that you maybe can find online, but I think you need to have a personal presence in all of the chapters, not just the 1 or 2 big ones, because I think that that is often overlooked when you're in a region that has 2 substantially sized chapters and then a bunch of smaller ones. So I think that it's very important to get out there in person and to interact with all of the members if you can, and to make a presence for HSA, because I can agree with Kendra on this, that lack of engagement and people just don't understand what the union's doing. And I think that we need to change that.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much for an election. It is amazing. I think that democracy is really important in our union, and those are some of our skills that we really need to be able to demonstrate more often. So thank you so much for both of you for putting your names forward. It's been an honor to be able to host your candidates meeting, and thank you very much to Zara for participating with us tonight as well. And I'd just like to thank everybody for coming. And just to remember that online voting opens tonight at 8 o'clock. Watch for an email from our election provider, which is Simply Voting. And if we don't have your email on file, you will watch for information in your postal mail. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you all being here and spending time with you this evening. And good luck. And I look forward to whomever I am working with in the future. Thank you so much for coming.